Hi, I'm Jerome Davis. I'm the artistic director of Burning Coal Theater Company, and we're having a series of short conversations with artistic leaders, particularly in the field of theater. The guest today is the noted French auteur, Monsieur Georges Jacques,
Bonjour.
known in these parts as George Jack. George, tell us a little bit about yourself first, because I think a lot of people know you as an actor, but not many people know about your day job.
My day job, so for 20 years, I have
How many
been
years?
20.
20, I think, yeah.
Is that right? Is that how I should say it in French? I am not French. I have been, I was director of theater for 10 years at St. Augustine's College, and then we became a university. I was a one-person show for 10 years, and then I now have a colleague, and she's now director of theater. And so that makes 20. And I've directed a lot of plays. I have taught every class that we have, and still love it.
Good. And
been working with Burning Coal Theater for 17 of those 20 years.
as an actor,
Yes.
but also as an educator and as a director.
Yes.
For our most prominently for our Oakwood series.
Yes.
Over in the Oakwood Cemetery. George, so you're in the academic world in a way that most of the people we've been inviting in are not so much. So how is it? What's happening right now in that world? Is it pretty much the same? Everybody's just shut down, or what have you lost? What have you had to postpone or move down the road?
Well, we in the theater program, we had not been teaching online classes, which some of my colleagues at school had been. Mm-hmm. That for us was the big adventure of having to shift everything over to distance learning. I guess it became real for us about 3 weeks ago. We had a meeting with which ironically everybody in campus gathered together in the gym, which you're not supposed to do. But we talked about safety issues and precautions and those sort of things. And at that point, the plan was to continue with classes, but to try and keep people apart as much as possible. We talked about hand washing and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. There was somebody from the state health, one of the state health agencies came and talked about what the CDC knew about the coronavirus. And then it was just a matter of days when things started getting very serious. When all of the professional sporting events started closing down, Broadway went dark, and we realized that, and midterm exams were going on during this week as well. So we already sort of had our schedule working, but we came to realize that we would have to probably not have face-to-face classes for at least a few weeks. And so the second plan then was after we finished midterms, last week was our spring break. So we knew we would be away for a week. Yeah. But on Monday and Tuesday of last week, as other colleges began to shut down for the semester, we realized that really the social distancing period was going to need to be longer to cut the curve on the spread of the coronavirus. Right. And so at that point, the school made the call that we were going to then teach the final 6 weeks of classes online.
And did you, because most of your students at St. Augustine's are boarding students, right?
Well, so that's one of the things that it suddenly struck me. I'm not going to see these kids again. Yeah. I'm not going to have them in classes. I'm not going to get to say goodbye to them, and several of them are going to be seniors, and they'll be graduating. Though another one of the things that we had to do was move the commencement ceremony to December instead of May. During this time, we were negotiating with trying to have some of the events that have been scheduled, and then finally the decision was just made, you're not going to have any public events. So that cut out open houses with high schools, which we're beginning to say that they weren't going to be coming anyway. At commencement, we were in the process of doing our spring show. We were doing a joint production with Justice Theater Project of 12 Angry Jurors.
Yes, right.
And we tried to keep rehearsing that, and then Dr. Celeste Evans, who's my colleague at St. Aug, she was directing
that piece, yeah.
Right. She and JTP just decided that it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And we might do that in the future. We're talking about the possibility of performing it. Still working with JTP, but at St. Aug, but no particular plans have been set yet.
Yeah. It's interesting because that play of all plays is about a fairly large group of people all crammed into a small room and interacting very closely and very emotionally.
And we were realizing that, and when they started saying, okay, no, when the governor said, no gatherings above 50 people, we're like, well, that's not going to be much of an audience, is it? And then we started hearing, 10 people or so. And we're like, well, that does it for us.
Yeah.
10 angry jurors, I don't think would quite work out. With what I'm doing on the internet, so I'm not teaching any acting classes.
I was going to say Grotowski over the internet doesn't work all.
No, not particularly well. And trying to get people doing partnered scenes when one person's in North Carolina and one's in New Jersey.
Or Meisner when there's a 2-second delay between the lines. Yeah.
So fortunately, what I'm doing are largely writing projects and theater history projects in my intro class.
Yeah.
And so we're just using email, and we've got a system sort of like we use Blackboard, and then we've got another system that we use. And so all of my classes got up and running yesterday.
Good.
And we're slowly making contact.
How are the students responding to it? Are they engaged in the same way they are in your class?
Well, no, they're not sure what to do, and frankly, I'm becoming sure of what to do. And I decided to just embrace this. And so one of actually the first assignment that I gave them was because when we had been meeting in class before we took our midterms, we were talking about a playwriting project. Mm-hmm. And I had been teaching Aristotle for a couple weeks and promising them, this is you're going to need this. You need to know this, right?
Yeah,
These are just the tools. But the important part, your imagination is going to kick in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And so what I did, I gave them an assignment where I said, okay, I want you to look at the last 3 weeks. I want you to look at this in terms of theater, goals, obstacles, tactics, expectation, all of the acting vocabulary. What were your plans 3 weeks ago? What do you think the rest of the semester was going to be like? And now you've had this huge change that you've had to adapt to, just like characters have to do in a plot structure. Yeah. Now what's going on? What are the obstacles that you have now that you did not have 2 weeks ago? What are your expectations in the future? Where do you think you'll be during the summer, next fall, and so forth? Because the scary thing about this is we don't know how far down the line we're looking with this. The good thing is it's giving us in the theater program an opportunity to develop online classes, which we did not have before. So
we're strengthening a muscle that maybe had not been emphasized because we didn't need to. As a theater artist, what we have historically done is rehearsed by ourselves and then invited people in to see the finished result, and so this is a new thing, and it's probably a really good thing in that regard. It's not good for the health of the citizens, but it's really good for giving us a new weapon to communicate to the world with. So I think that's right. What's down the road for you, George? What are you looking forward to at St. Aug's or in your life as an artist?
Well, the one thing that I've come to realize is that I've got 6 to 8 weeks to read. Yeah. And I'm not often able to carve that amount of time out in life.
It's like a little sabbatical.
It is. It is actually, and so I'm doing that, a little research, little fun, and we're moving forward with we're moving forward as if this is going to be a short-term problem, which hopefully will be solved if people will keep away from each other and basically do what we're supposed to be doing. And so we're moving forward with registration for the fall, planning fall classes, and eventually we'll be figuring out what shows we'll be doing. We often have to sort of wait and see, which of our students will be returning, and that to me is kind of a big question at this point, because you'd asked me earlier about how the students were adapting to this. I don't necessarily know, but the assignment that I gave them, I think, is going to help me to know exactly what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis now. Because being a student in a dormitory and coming to a class and having that sort of regular schedule is very different, because some kids are going to go back to homes where they're now going to have to take care of younger siblings or
the janitor doesn't
relatives.
come in and replace the toilet paper. They better do it themselves.
Right. But there may be. I don't know what difficulties their parents are going to have with their jobs, and how they're going to have to fill in, and how their time is going to be pulled away from being able to study and being able to complete the assignments, which they would not have had to worry about if they were living in a dorm. Of course, a lot of our students have to work in order to be able to pay the bills of going to school.
Yeah.
And a lot of students have families of their own, which now will be complicated, because a lot of the jobs that they've had they're not being funded right now. There's no, I'm not aware of this, but the difficult, at least they were able to have work study jobs on campus, and now that program doesn't particularly exist anymore.
Because the students are not on
because
campus.
The students are not on campus. And there's really nothing necessarily for us to do,
right,
or to have them do. But even all of the people that you and I know who make up a lot of the casts in the shows that we do, their day jobs are working in restaurants, baristas, and that sort of thing, and they're all being hit by this.
That segment of the community sort of notoriously doesn't have access to grocery stores either in the way that the white community does in Raleigh, right? So that's another thing. If you shut down the restaurants and the grocery stores are next to non-existent, what do you do for food? There's all sorts of problems like that I imagine is being looked at right now. Are you staying in touch with your students through the classes that you're teaching?
Yeah.
Do you have productions lined up in the fall for St. Augustine?
Well, we'd like to. We got started far enough into working on 12 Angry Jurors that we really just didn't want to let it go.
Good.
And so we're talking about the possibility of doing that early in our season. And those discussions are still going on. And beyond that, I think this has already been announced, so I think I can say this. Also, Justice Theater Project and St. Aug are going to pair to do a production, and I am not going to get this title right. We are pleased to present a presentation about something to do with Namibia and South Africa. And it's an extremely long title, longer than Murat Saad even. But it's a 6-person show about the difficulty with Germany and in Africa, and that's in February, I think, February or March.
Good. You direct?
No, Dr. Celeste will be doing it.
She'll be directing.
Celeste Edmonds. Yeah, I'm doing most mostly technical work at this point,
Okay.
design and lighting and that sort of thing, and then teaching. This semester I'm teaching 6 classes, so
Wow.
yeah, and it takes both of us. She so as director of theater, she gets one whole class off, which is not off,
Right.
in order to do a mountain of paperwork and that sort of thing, which she's very good at, and I'm very happy that she's doing that. But she's guiding the program really nicely, and it's nice to have 2 people, working together as a team rather than just sort of being alone,
Just the one.
doing it.
Well, we believe we're going to get you back here next season if you're available for something.
Sure.
Working on that. So
Any particular parts you're thinking of?
well, yes, as a matter of fact, there is, but we'll talk about that off camera.
I see.
So, George, thank you for joining
Oh,
us
you're
today.
welcome.
Thank you for making the trip over from St. Augustine's, and do tell everybody there that Burning Coal says hi,
I will.
and that we're thinking about you guys, and hope everything turns out well.
Okay, thank you.